Now let's define emotional intelligence in terms of what we can easily relate. Okay? Let's take the definition very slowly and understand what this definition is trying to tell us. As I'm reading the definition, just get into the feeling of the whole definition. So we are talking about emotional intelligence, right? So get into the feeling of the emotional intelligence definition. What is it? It's a capacity. It's a capacity to recognize. Recognize means I must पहचानने को आना चाहिए. I must recognize. So while I'm talking to you, try to recognize your own feelings and emotions. Your own feelings and emotions, try to recognize it, and those of others. This requires pause. Okay? Recognize our own feelings and emotions and those of others. Understand them. Understand means try to pause, take some time and ask yourself a question. Why is this person behaving so shabbily? Why is he shouting and screaming? Understanding. Initially this understanding might not come to any of us, but we need to persist. When we persist and persevere with a pause, we usually understand. Understanding requires patience. So, I recognize my own feelings and emotions and those of others. This itself is a journey. I understand them. It's about having patience and perseverance. And what I do is I adapt to them. I have to work with people. At my home, I have to be with my family. I have to adapt to them. Adaptation means what? Accepting them wholeheartedly with an understanding. Without understanding, there is no adaptation. If the understanding is removed, it becomes adjustment. Adjustment is painful. Whereas adaptation is powerful. Adaptation makes you take charge of the situation. It puts you under the control of the situation. So, I recognize, I understand, then I adapt. After I adapt, what do I do? Since I've adapted, I accept you. Those of you who are slightly elderly who are listening to me, you'll find that with your partners and your family, you have started accepting them the way they are. Your son must be throwing a tantrum, or your daughter must be, shouting and screaming with her friends. Now all these things, if you recognize your own feelings and emotions, if you understand them, if you adapt to them, you start accepting them. Acceptance means what? I include it as a part of my life. I don't exclude it. What do many people do? Any negative emotion, they exclude it. Nahi mangta hai. They run away from negative emotions. Don't we all do that? When I am removing negative emotions from my life and I'm preventing them from happening, I'm excluding emotions. Emotions are all not negative or positive. It is the way we language it. Shouting and screaming is negative with respect to a situation and a context. When it is a social context, we simply reject it. We say shouting is bad. But from an emotional intelligence point of view, ask yourself a question, why is he shouting? Recognize his own feelings and emotions, why he is shouting. Understand it. When you understand, you start adapting and then you start accepting it. Once you accept it, only then you can act upon the emotion. So, I recognize my own feelings and emotions and those of others. I understand them, mine and others. I adapt to them, mine and others. I accept them, mine and others. I act upon them, mine and others. So what does it say? It says that first and foremost, let me accept myself and let me act upon myself. The journey begins at home. Emotional intelligence starts with me. Let me understand why I am doing what I am doing. Let me understand why am I getting depressed? Why am I getting low? Why do I feel guilty? Why do I feel shameful? These are some of the emotions which are suppressed by many people. They suppress it because it disturbs them. Joy, happiness, euphoria, all those are supposed to be positive emotions. They actually expand your comfort zone. Whereas anger, guilt, shame, they try to contract your comfort zone. Your comfort levels come down. And any human being would like to keep his comfort zone preserved and even expanded. So what we do, we run after joy, we run after happiness. Nothing wrong about it. But excluding sorrow, excluding negative emotions is something which we need to look into. If there is somebody in your neighborhood who's negative in emotions, would you really go and talk to them? If there is a neighbor who is always fighting with people, would you go and talk to that person? You would avoid him. This is the natural behavior which all of us do. When I avoid him, I do not understand why he is shouting. Somebody will say there is no need to understand him. Maybe no need. But this situation comes in your office, at your workplace. Your boss is screaming at you, or your subordinates are trying to get frustrated with the work. Their emotions are completely shaken. Is that an area where you need to pay attention? The answer is yes, of course. So instead of telling this to your subordinates, don't get me bad news, give me always the good news. Many managers do this. Give me the good news, don't give me the bad news. Don't tell me what has gone wrong. Don't give me negative details, I want only positive. When you want to listen only for good things and you don't want to listen to bad emotions, you will never empathize with others' emotions. And you will never be able to adapt and accept them because you have never understood them. Very simple. So recognize, understand, adapt, accept and act. So to sum it up, the definition of emotional intelligence is the capacity to recognize our own feelings and emotions of others, understand them, adapt to them, accept them and act upon them. When I do this particular path, I am in the path to become emotionally intelligent. Okay? Now we try to understand how do we develop our own emotional intelligence. It's a very vast area of learning. Whole lifetime you can use in learning. I've given you just about 4 steps drawn from the Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence. Just 4 steps, simple techniques how we could do it. Very simple techniques. There are 4 stages towards developing emotional intelligence. 4 stages. The first stage is self-awareness. I must be aware that there are emotions in me. Some people are stone. They are not even aware that they have an emotion in them. So you need to be self-aware. The ability to read one's emotions and recognize their impact while using gut feelings to guide decisions. What is gut feeling? अंदर से लगता है कि ये आदमी बीमार है, अंदर से लगता है कि ये आदमी खुश नहीं है. This is a gut feeling. Do gut feelings have any logic? The answer is no. Many people who are logical, they'll say gut feeling says so, but I don't have any proof. For emotions and feelings, there is no need for any proof. This is not logic. This is other than logic. It is not illogical, it is other than logic. Emotions and feelings are other than logic. It's an important part of human existence. So, self-awareness means I am in touch with my emotion. Now, while I'm talking to you, for example, I must be aware about what emotions and what feelings are going through me. A feeling of apprehension, perhaps. I may be aware that the fact that I'm feeling joyful to talk to you. Once the self-awareness comes, what happens? I am able to understand myself. Now this self-awareness, suppose my apprehension while talking to you, my nervousness, if I can use a word, assuming that I have a nervousness, is a little high. I will know that I am nervous only when I am into self-awareness. And this nervousness can create a set of a flutter. If I am not aware of it, I won't even know what's the matter. I'll say I'm getting disturbed, I don't want to do this presentation. But the moment I'm aware that there is a flutter, and the flutter is becoming a little too much, then I can get into management, self-management. Unless I know that the cup is half full with water, I cannot fill up the rest of the half, isn't it? I must be aware to manage something. So I am aware of my emotion and then I need to manage it. I have to either bring down my nervousness, I have to do something about it. That's where the management part of it comes, the actual action. Self-management involves controlling one's emotions. I would use the word channelizing, not controlling. Channelizing one's emotions and impulses and adapting to the changing circumstances. I'm talking to you, and while I'm talking to you, I'm explaining some topics to you, and my self-management of my emotions are very important at this point of time. I can talk to you very logically, give the topic and be done with it. On the other hand, I can talk to you empathizing in my mind that people are listening to me when they see this video. Get into the emotions and the feelings of people. Try, keep doing it. And when I do that, when can I do that? I can do that only when I am aware that I am an emotional being and the people who are listening to me are also emotional people. The way I put this particular topic will have an impact on you people. So I must put my emotion into it. Not excess, not less. First and foremost, aware of my emotion, I need to manage my emotion. So once I manage my emotion, I have the requisite amount of emotion to put forward the topic. I have to try, I have to keep doing it. Will I succeed all the time? May not. But being aware and managing is taking me towards a path of understanding people's emotions. Where does it begin? It begins with me. If I invalidate, if I say no need for emotions, after all I've come to just deliver a lecture on emotional intelligence, let me finish it and be done with it. If I do that, I will not be doing this exercise. If on the other hand, I come with a feeling of my own self, self-awareness of my emotions, managing my emotions properly, then what happens? I go to the third step. I get into what is called a social awareness. I am aware that the people who are listening to me are also having the same emotions. They are all having different emotions for that matter. The ability to sense, understand and react to others' emotions while comprehending social networks. This is taken from the book. So, when you're aware about your emotions and you learn to manage it, you are in a position to get into social awareness. It's then you realize why people are shouting. If I am shouting and I do not know I'm shouting, it means I'm not aware. If on the other hand, I'm shouting and I'm aware that I'm shouting, then I can manage my shouting to the extent to which it is required for the situation. Once I practice this, then when I go to a social situation, I realize that when people are shouting, there is a certain reason why they are shouting. I don't condemn them. Okay? Social awareness. Then comes the most important part of our working life, relationship management. Once I get socially aware that emotions matter and I am in a position to be empathetic with people's emotions, what happens to me? I am getting calmer and stress-free. I don't get attached to the push and pull of the emotions. I am taking it easy. I am not cut off from emotions, mind you. I am with the emotion. At the same time, I am understanding the person behind the emotion. This is a very important part of AI. Emotional intelligence is about understanding the person behind the emotion. In marketing, we say an angry customer is one who's like a baby seeking attention. An angry customer is one who's like a baby who's seeking attention. Small children, they cry and they shout. What are they doing? They're actually seeking attention. The baby in us doesn't die, it remains. And when the customer is angry, he goes there and he shouts and screams and he abuses. What do? We get attached to the abuse and the screaming and we tell him, shut up. When we do that, we are not emotionally intelligent. A good shopkeeper will say, "Theek hai." What will he do? He will listen. He will give a pause. He will listen. And after that, he will empathize with the person. And then, wonder of wonders, the person is not coming with a complaint. He doesn't want you to solve the complaint. What he wants is basically attention. Somewhere he feels that तुमने मेरा emotion को ठुकरा दिया. He feels this. So this is an important part of it. The moment I pause in front of a negative emotion, you know what happens? I start seeing that the negative emotion is not the person, it is some energy that is expressing itself. Very important. Okay? Relationship management is about the networking which we do in the organization, the number of people with whom we move. Social awareness is the first stage. Second stage is the crystallized stage. This is the maturity of the whole thing. The ability to inspire, influence and develop others while managing conflict. Important thing. I can be a conflict manager, I can be a leader only when I have gone through step 1, step 2 and step 3. Are relationships always sweet? No. Relationships have got their ups and downs like a roller coaster. And since relationships have got their ups and downs of a roller coaster, if you are a person who cannot handle the downs, you will not be having a proper relationship management tool with you. If on the other hand, you are having the social awareness that ups and downs do happen, then when the downs come, you know how to manage it. When the ups come, at that time also you know how to manage it. There are people who want to be constantly happy. Not a bad idea, it's a good idea. But there are situations which pull you down into unhappiness at times. So what people do is, instead of understanding unhappiness and the cause of it, they try to run away from unhappiness into an artificial happiness. Many people do this. In a place like Bombay, it is very common. Somebody is unhappy at the end of the day. Let's say at the workplace, something has gone wrong and today evening you are unhappy. Then what you do is, instead of understanding why am I unhappy, you immediately externalize the unhappiness. You say it's because of the boss, because of the work, because of this, because of that. It is logic. It suits the situation, but you don't grow emotionally intelligent. Sit down and ask yourself a question. Why am I unhappy? Pause. Listen to your inner voice. And then you'll come to know that my unhappiness is my languaging towards the situation. It's my languaging. Once you explore this thing, then you realize, oh my God, can I look at it from a different angle? Perception. And when I do that, I realize that, oh my God, this is something which is my making. Now when I do this, again and again, what happens to me? I am in a position to understand myself. And then what happens is handling relationships become very easy. When somebody is having such negative things around them, what I could do is, I could be a source of inspiration for them. Because even when lows happen, I can handle it. I can influence them into positive, proactive action. And I can also develop them. This morning, a friend of mine, had a problem. Some major problem, and that person was completely rattled. Gave me a call. What should I do? I said, take it easy. I said, these incidents happen. I'm not saying ignore the incident, but take it easy, get proactive, be with the issue. Don't get into the emotions so excessively. Take it easy. It takes time. It's very nice for me to say this, but to practice it takes time.